Mark Taylor-Canfield is in Seattle. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Mike.
How are you?
Sending you some music from my new band project. Hope you get a chance to listen to it.
I definitely will.
So it's definitely a labor of love.
Oh, good.
But I was listening to the program tonight, and excellent as always, and I called to talk about some things that are happening in my area of the country, which could, to some seem more European style than most of the rest of the U.S. You know, with a Socialist City Council member here in Seattle and a major initiative between the progressives and labor unions to increase the minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we have really great microbrews and excellent coffee. So
you do indeed.
Like the rest of the U.S. Yeah.
And plus, your governor, yesterday, we talked about it, suspended the death penalty. And by the way, we played the counter, the woman who is a socialist on the Seattle City Council now. We played the entire address the other night.
Kshama Sawant. Yeah, she's definitely gotten a lot of international media attention.
I would think, yeah.
I've never seen the labor unions and the progressives and the left get together on an issue like they are at the minimum wage, Mike. It's really amazing. Normally there's so much infighting, that people don't work together.
Mm-hmm.
So look out for that, because our governor, Jay Inslee, also said last week that he is pushing for a raise of the minimum wage in Washington State, which already has the highest in the country. So that's a big issue here. But,
well, another issue out of Seattle that has really attracted my attention, we talked about on the program also, I think, last week, was what Boeing is now experiencing when they tried to union bust in Seattle and opened the factory in South Carolina. And now they're getting massive components for their massive airplanes that they're having to redo in Seattle because the workers in South Carolina, there is no, what do we call it, institutional memory. You don't have old workers who have been working for Boeing for 35 years. It's not instinctive. They have to learn it, and the older members of the troop will do that. And this has always been true in manufacturing in this country. You can only tell somebody something. You finally have to demonstrate it. That's the way I learned talk radio. But as a result, Boeing is in deeper trouble than they're willing to admit, because of these parts that they're getting, these huge sections to be assembled into aircraft that are just not being put together right. Mark, hold on a second. We got to take a break. We'll come right back and pick up the conversation. We're talking with Mark Canfield. Okay, where were we?
I don't know, but I was thinking while you were off the air that I would be remiss in not mentioning that Seattle kicked the Denver Bronco and Peyton Manning's butt in the Super Bowl. And it's interesting to me that 700,000 people can join together in the streets and there are no arrests, but for some reason every year on May Day there's a major confrontation between police and political groups.
Yeah, well, one celebrates corporate America, the other one doesn't, or something.
Well, people up here were calling it the Bud Bowl because these are the two states that have legalized marijuana, so I can only say the score may prove that Seattle has better marijuana. I'm not sure.
Right.
But the other thing I wanted to mention, though, is that I have this reflection on the difference between the U.S. and other European-style countries like you were talking about before. And Michael Moore did a TV show called TV Nation, and in one of those episodes, they left a stack of unloaded rifles on both sides of the border there in Michigan at the Canadian border. And on the Canadian side, nobody touched any of those weapons, even though there was a sign that said free from them. But on the American side, they disappeared in about 15 minutes. There was a general strike all across the country to protest the government's new austerity measures. Oh, yeah, the truckers. That was another one of the trucker strikes. I was working at CNN International then. I remember writing about that. But actually, Mike, because a lot of the airport workers and mass transit are government workers, they all went on strike, too. So the airports were closed, the trains weren't running, the buses didn't get anywhere, and Paris was just, shut down. And then after the government had actually acquiesced to the people's demands to stop austerity measures, the truckers were still blocking the highways. And so I asked a French citizen, well, wait a minute, I don't understand. The government said, okay, enough's enough, we'll drop these austerity measures, but they're still blocking the road. Why are they doing that? And the response was, they just want to show the government who's in control here.
Right.
I'll remind them.
I think also the price of...
There's that old adage, when the people lead, the leaders have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you see that over and over again. Maybe that's what's happening in the Ukraine right now, which, by the way, thanks for reporting on that, because a lot of people don't know what's happening there. Mm-hmm. And that whole situation with the cell phones and the new law against protests and all of that, that was really important.
And I'm very curious now, Mark, to see what will happen on March 2nd with the Keystone XL protests. Here's the problem with the Keystone XL pipeline, though. There are labor unions who support it. They believe, some of these labor leaders believe, that this is going to create an abundance of jobs, which it simply will not. Every single sociological study that I have seen regarding how many jobs are going to be produced or produced by the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline, the jobs are very temporary. They're less than 2 years, and at the max, maybe 1,500 new jobs. So all those lies that have been told about hundreds of thousands of new jobs apparently sucked in enough labor leaders to believe that this is really going to happen, all these job creation.
Well, I live in sort of a bubble here in Washington State, but I can say that the leader of the King County Labor Council, which has about 400,000 members, I think, last count, got up in front of a crowd at the SEIU hall and said, we were wrong when it came to not supporting the new Socialist city council member. So at least here, the labor unions are jumping on with the progressive bandwagon. I think in the rest of the country, they have these issues economically that we don't have in the Northwest. For instance, all of our city officials are against the coal train. All of our city officials are for green technology. You don't get elected in Seattle unless you're a green person, the technology. So, we're watching the rest of the country and wondering what the heck is going on. I mean, why are people still supporting mountaintop removal, coal mining projects, and fracking, and all of these really, environmentally destructive energy sources? In Washington State, we get most of our energy actually from the hydroelectric dams, which have their own environmental problems when it comes to the salmon run.
Right.
And there have been proposals to dismantle them at some point. But, we tend to be energy independent here, and water independent, and in all sorts of other ways. We don't really have to go along with the program of the rest of the country. So it'll be curious to see. And as far as these marches on March 2nd, I will be watching as a reporter to see how journalists and live streamers are treated.
Really?
One of the things that I'm very curious and have been corresponding with Reporters Without Borders about is the fact that we're 37th on the World Press Freedom Index. I want to see if things have improved since the Occupy movement, and if reporters can actually...
And as far as Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia, I'm starting to hear it more.
I think people up in the Northwest have been hiding for years. Seattle's a very anti-rock star town. You get a lot of media attention from New York. No one likes you here. And I think that's over. I think people are finally starting to say, no, we need to be proud of we should be proud
There you go. Mark, I have to leave it there, pal. Flat out of time. Thank you, Mark Taylor-Canfield. And we'll be right back.